Have you ever noticed how life sometimes collapses all at once? As if some invisible force suddenly turns every dial against you? A call drops at the exact moment you needed clarity. A conversation that should have been simple spirals into misunderstanding. Plans you trusted dissolve in seconds. And for a moment, it feels as if the entire universe is leaning in the wrong direction. But what if this isn't opposition at all? What if the universe isn't resisting you but simply reflecting the frequency you're unconsciously broadcasting? Most people assume life goes wrong because circumstances turned hostile. But reality is not random. It behaves more like a mirror, one that doesn't respond to your hopes or your thoughts, but to the vibration created by the coherence or incoherence within you. Now imagine the opposite, a day where things just flow. You leave the house at the perfect moment. Every light turns green. People respond with ease. Timing aligns as if the world is quietly rearranging itself on your behalf. That's not luck. That's resonance. It's the subtle alignment between your internal field and the external fabric of events. But here's the question that begins to shift everything. What if I could show you, through quantum physics and neuroscience, that reality literally responds to your state of consciousness? Not metaphorically, not spiritually, mechanically, measurably, but before we get there, you must understand the invisible error that causes most people to manifest. The exact opposite of what they intend. The error is not in their dreams or their intentions. It's in the assumption that thinking and vibrating are the same thing. They repeat affirmations, visualize outcomes with intensity, and force their minds toward positive imagery. Yet their emotional body, their physiology, their subconscious programs vibrate at a completely different frequency. Their thoughts say, "I am abundant," but their nervous system whispers, "I am afraid." Their mind says, "I trust," but their chest contracts. Their words say, "I'm ready," yet their biology broadcasts resistance. The universe doesn't listen to the words. It listens to the vibration beneath them. And that is where most people remain blind. The real field that shapes reality doesn't respond to what you're trying to think. It responds to the coherence or incoherence between your thoughts, emotions, and biological signals. When these three fall out of sync, the external world scatters in the same fragmented rhythm as your inner discord. Reality simply reflects the static. And without realizing it, we interpret that static as bad luck, misalignment, or universal opposition, when in truth it is only resonance, your inner state echoing into form. You can see the invisible error most clearly in the smallest moments, the ones you dismiss as insignificant because they seem too subtle to matter. You wake up with a quiet tension sitting in your chest, a pressure you ignore because your schedule is full, and your mind is already racing ahead. You tell yourself you're fine. You tell yourself today will be productive. But beneath that mental insistence, your breath is shallow, your heartbeat slightly uneven, and your subconscious is already transmitting a frequency of contraction. Then, as if on cue, the first email you open carries unexpected criticism. Your chest tightens a little more. A traffic light that normally cooperates suddenly turns red at every intersection. A conversation that should have been simple unfolds with strange friction. By noon, your energy feels heavy, tangled, and people begin mirroring that agitation back to you. You call it coincidence. You call it a bad day. But the field has already been responding since the moment you ignored your first internal signal. The error is not in the events themselves. The real error is in the gap between what you believe you are emitting and what you are actually resonating. Your conscious mind may say, "I'm calm," but your nervous system broadcasts stress. You may believe you are thinking abundance, but your body echoes scarcity. You may imagine clarity, but your emotional field vibrates confusion. Neuroscience gives this mismatch a name: neuro-emotional incoherence. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that visualizes, plans, imagines, may be projecting success, but your limbic system still runs ancient programs of fear, survival, and uncertainty. That conflict sends contradictory signals through the autonomic nervous system, which regulates everything from heart rhythm to hormonal release. The heart's electromagnetic field, measurable several feet beyond the body, becomes jagged and erratic under this tension. Quantum physics describes an identical phenomenon in the language of waves: destructive interference. Two vibrations out of sync collide and cancel each other out, creating chaos instead of form. This is why you can think positively while still attracting disorder. You are sending two frequencies at once, one of intention and one of fear. And the field, which never misinterprets, mirrors the incoherence with precise symmetry. The universe is not punishing you. It is organizing itself around the strongest signal you emit. And that signal is rarely your thoughts. It is your vibration, your internal rhythm. The electromagnetic coherence or incoherence arising from your emotional body. Most people miss this because they've been trained to trust their thinking above all else. They believe the mind is the command center of reality. But in truth, the mind is only one instrument in a triad. You can observe this invisible error in the quiet spaces of your day, long before anything goes wrong. It begins in the body, in a place most people never look. The body is always speaking, always broadcasting, always translating your subconscious into vibration, long before the conscious mind catches up. But because we're conditioned to prioritize thoughts over sensations, we override the earliest signals that reveal our true frequency. Imagine this for a moment. You wake with a slight tightness in your abdomen, a subtle micro-clench that whispers something is off. You dismiss it because you have tasks waiting, messages to answer, expectations to fulfill. You inhale quickly, exhale even quicker, and move on. But the field does not ignore what you ignore. That tiny contraction becomes the first note in the frequency you transmit for the rest of the day. By the time you open your phone and read a message that feels slightly off, your system is already primed for misinterpretation. You tense again, not consciously but energetically. The heart rhythm tightens. Your breathing shifts from fluid to controlled. Your nervous system slips into low-grade survival mode. And then, with almost mathematical symmetry, the outer world begins rearranging itself around that internal discord. The conversation that should have flowed suddenly feels strained. The task that should take minutes becomes tangled. People respond with confusion or abruptness. The field echoes your internal contraction with impeccable fidelity. This is where most people fall into the trap. They assume the events are the cause of their emotional state. They think everything is going wrong today, unaware that their vibration began collapsing hours earlier. The universe isn't conspiring against them. It is simply responding to the signal they unconsciously stabilized. The field mirrors your internal truth, not your verbal declarations. It doesn't matter how many affirmations you repeat if your chest is tight, your breath shallow, your emotions unacknowledged. Coherence is not built on words. It is built on alignment between what you think, what you feel, and what your body broadcasts. Neuroscience describes this inner conflict as a breakdown between the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system. The prefrontal cortex, the part of you that visualizes abundance, clarity, and confidence, may be sending one signal, while the limbic system, the emotional and survival center, sends another. That conflict transmits a mixed frequency, one the autonomic nervous system amplifies through heart rate variability, hormonal shifts, and electromagnetic output. In physics, this looks like two waves overlapping but out of phase. They don't amplify each other, they cancel each other. This is destructive interference. Chaos, not creation. Confusion, not manifestation. And the outer world becomes a mirror of that canceled signal. Most people never realize that the outer chaos they experience is simply the physical echo of an inner discord that began long before any event appeared. The invisible error doesn't announce itself dramatically. It hides in the smallest moments, in the brief tightening of the jaw when someone questions you, in the barely noticeable exhale of frustration when a plan shifts, in the quick mental recoil you feel when life asks you to step beyond your comfort. These micro-reactions are not insignificant. They are instructions, signals, frequencies that your body sends into the field with complete honesty, even when your mind refuses to acknowledge them. And the field, obedient and neutral, responds to the signal that is most coherent, not the signal you verbally prefer. This is why the gap between what you think you're emitting and what you're actually resonating becomes the root of almost all manifestation failure. The mind says, I'm calm, I'm positive, I'm aligned, while the body whispers, I don't feel safe. The mind visualizes success, but the chest tightens. The mind repeats gratitude, but the breath shortens. The mind affirms abundance, but the nervous system contracts around scarcity. This mismatch creates what neuroscience calls neuro-emotional incoherence, a state in which your cognitive intention and your emotional truth move in different directions. And because the field responds to coherence, not contradiction, your outer world reflects the strongest, most stable signal, the one your body is broadcasting. not the one your mind is performing. Think of it like tuning an instrument. If one string is perfectly tuned but the others are tightened unevenly, the sound that emerges is discordant no matter how beautifully you intend to play. Your thoughts are just one string. Your emotions are another. Your physiological state, breath, heart rhythm, hormonal balance is the third. When these three align, your frequency becomes stable, and the outer world mirrors that stability. When they clash, the field reflects that confusion. This is why people often say, "I don't know why everything feels off today." They're listening to the echo, not the original vibration. Consider a simple example. You receive a message that seems slightly abrupt. Your mind interprets it rationally, but your body reacts instantly. Your shoulders tense. Your pulse changes. A flash of insecurity moves through your stomach. If you ignore that sensation, it doesn't disappear. It becomes the foundation of your vibration. Within minutes, your perception narrows. Your patience decreases and your awareness becomes tinted with subtle defense. You read the next message more harshly. You speak a little quicker. You misunderstand a tone that wasn't meant to be sharp. You call this a bad mood, but it is actually coherence forming around an unacknowledged emotional impulse. The field mirrors this impulse by arranging events that match your internal contraction. There is a silent space between who you were and who you are becoming. A space that feels like nothing, like emptiness, like stillness. But in the quantum field, this nothing is actually everything. This gap is where your old identity dissolves and your new identity begins forming, long before you can see it with your physical eyes. But here's the truth most people never want to admit. You keep rushing to fill the gap. You distract yourself. You run back to familiar routines. You reach for the old versions of yourself because they feel safer than standing in the unknown. You tell yourself you're stuck. But what you're actually experiencing is expansion, the part of the journey where the universe erases everything that doesn't match the frequency of the self you're becoming. And the reason it feels so uncomfortable is simple. Your mind wants evidence. Your soul wants evolution. This is the conflict that keeps you looping. The quantum field doesn't respond to who you were or who you pretend to be. It responds to the vibration you hold when no one is watching. The vibration inside your chest when you close your eyes. The vibration beneath the fear, beneath the doubt, beneath the noise. And in this gap, that vibration becomes louder. That's why your old life suddenly feels too small. Why your old hobbies don't excite you anymore. Why old relationships feel heavier than before. Why isolation feels strangely comforting. Why silence feels like home. You aren't losing interest, you're losing alignment. Your consciousness is detaching from the reality that once reflected who you used to be. And every time you try to force your old life to fit your new frequency, the universe pushes back harder. It creates friction, chaos, breakdowns, emotional waves, anything that forces you to stop clinging to the outdated version of yourself. And this is where most people fail. They interpret the gap as a sign to return to their old reality, but the gap is actually the threshold, the portal, the moment before the quantum shift collapses into form. If you resist this gap, you delay your transformation. If you surrender to it, you accelerate it. The universe is not asking you to work harder. It's asking you to let go. To stop performing your old identity. To stop responding from old wounds. To stop repeating old patterns. To stop vibrating at the frequency of the person you're no longer meant to be. This is the part where you learn to hold the vibration of your future self even when your physical reality hasn't caught up yet. This is the part where trust becomes a frequency. This is the part where the quantum field starts rearranging everything on your behalf. The gap isn't empty. It's pregnant with your new reality. There comes a moment in every transformation when the universe stops whispering and starts rearranging. Not gently, not subtly, but with a force that feels like your entire life is being pulled apart from the inside. This is the collapse. The collapse of the timeline you've outgrown. The collapse of the identity you can no longer carry. The collapse of every pattern that kept you stuck in loops you didn't even recognize as loops. And the mistake people make is thinking something is going wrong. Nothing is wrong. Everything is being recalibrated. When you raise your frequency, truly raise it, not just pretend, not just talk about it, not just think positive thoughts, you become incompatible with your old reality. And the quantum field responds by dissolving everything that no longer matches your vibration. At first it feels like loss. Opportunities fall apart. Friendships drift. Comforts evaporate. Your old sense of self becomes harder to access. You think you're breaking down, but you're breaking through. Your physical reality is the last part of your existence to update. The energetic shift happens first. The emotional shift follows. And then, slowly, the material world catches up. By disassembling what can't come with you, the universe isn't punishing you. It's clearing the path, because a higher timeline cannot coexist with a lower frequency identity. Something has to go. And the universe always removes what you're too afraid to release. That's why you feel the tension. That's why the things you used to tolerate suddenly feel unbearable. That's why situations you once accepted now feel suffocating. That's why you can't force yourself into rooms, conversations, or versions of yourself that once felt normal. Your soul is rejecting the old timeline. And here is the quantum truth most people never learn. When your old timeline collapses, it looks like chaos. When your new timeline activates, it looks like clarity. But both are happening at the same time. You're not confused. You're being recalibrated. You're not lost. You're being repositioned. You're not failing. You're being upgraded. This collapse is not the end. It's the transition point. The moment where your old energetic signature detaches from your field, and the new one begins to anchor in. You are not supposed to fix this phase. You're supposed to allow it, because the more you fight the collapse, the longer you stay trapped between timelines, too evolved for the past, but too hesitant for the future. But when you finally surrender, when you finally say, "I'm done being the old me," something extraordinary happens. The universe rushes in, synchronicities multiply, ideas sharpen, opportunities realign. People you've never met start appearing at the perfect moment, with perfect timing carrying the exact frequency you needed. This is the quantum update, not a slow shift. A sudden collapse followed by rapid expansion. There is a phase in your evolution that no one warns you about. A moment after the collapse but before the breakthrough. A strange, quiet, disorienting space where nothing seems to move forward, yet nothing pulls you back either. This is the void, not darkness, not emptiness, not failure, but a neutral field of infinite potential, where your old identity is gone and your new identity has not yet solidified. Most people can't handle the void. They panic in it. They rush to fill it with noise. Distractions, old habits, old people, old energies. Anything to avoid sitting in the unfamiliar silence of who they are becoming. But the void is not a punishment. It's the incubation chamber of your next reality. When you enter the void, your energy unplugged from your old timeline. Your old patterns stopped generating momentum. Your old emotional loops stopped feeding themselves. Your old identity stopped receiving energetic validation from the quantum field. You become for a moment undefined. And that is exactly why the void is so powerful. Because when you are undefined, you are limitless. You are no longer bound by the energetic signatures you've carried since childhood, no longer tied to expectations, no longer shaped by the memories that controlled your behavior. You are no longer reacting to your past. You are preparing to respond to your future. But here is the part most people overlook. The void is where the universe watches what you choose, not your words, not your intentions, your frequency. Do you vibrate with fear, grasping to rebuild the old timeline? Or do you vibrate with trust, allowing the new timeline to assemble itself? Because the void is not empty. It is listening. It is recording. It is taking notes from the energetic signals you emit. When you sit in the void with panic, you recreate your past. When you sit in the void with patience, you create your future. And when you sit in the void with power, with presence, awareness, and surrender, you unlock your highest timeline. The void is the space between exhale and inhale, the quantum pause before manifestation solidifies, the moment where your soul recalibrates to a new vibrational identity. Nothing is supposed to happen here on the outside. The transformation is happening internally. Your nervous system is rewiring. Your beliefs are dissolving. Your intuition is strengthening. Your energy is expanding. Your future is taking shape behind the scenes. This is why the void feels calm but unsettling, still but alive, silent but full. It's the sensation of your timeline shifting in real time. And here's the secret only the deeply awakened understand. If you can stay centered in the void, the universe will reveal the path without you having to chase it. That's why your old desires don't excite you anymore. That's why your old triggers don't affect you the same way. That's why your old ambitions feel too small for your spirit. There is a moment in your evolution when the universe begins, rewriting you from the inside out. Not your circumstances, not your outer world. You, your patterns, your emotional frequency, your self-perception, your energetic signature. This is the phase of identity recoding, the most misunderstood and most powerful stage in the entire transformation process. People think change happens when their life improves. But in quantum reality, life improves after your inner code updates. Reality doesn't shift first. You shift first, because your identity is the command center that tells the quantum field what to mirror back into your world. And you can't access a new timeline while running the software of your old self. So the universe starts the update, slowly at first. Then suddenly, you begin noticing tiny glitches in your old identity. Behaviors that once felt natural now feel forced. Conversations that once drained you suddenly feel impossible to participate in. People who once fit effortlessly into your life now feel energetically misaligned. It's not drama. It's not ego. It's not mood. It's recoding. Your nervous system is releasing outdated responses. Your cells are letting go of memories stored in your body. Your intuition is becoming louder than your fear. Your consciousness is outgrowing the personality you once used for survival. And the wildest part? You don't even realize it at first. You just feel different, detached, less reactive, more observant. Like you're watching your old self from the outside, aware that it's no longer you but unsure of who you're becoming. This is the quantum identity shift, a phase where the universe doesn't want you to act. It wants you to receive. Receive the new coding. Receive the new frequency. Receive the new self. Because the version of you who is coming into existence doesn't operate through force, anxiety, or overthinking. They operate through alignment, clarity, and precision. In this stage, your energy is more important than your actions. Your internal state is more important than your plans. Your beliefs are more powerful than your strategies. And every time you choose the new self, even in the smallest way, your timeline adjusts. Every boundary you set, every thought you interrupt, every moment you choose presence over impulse. Every time you walk away from what no longer matches your frequency. Every time you choose the higher version of yourself, instead of collapsing into the old one, you send a signal into the quantum field. Update complete. I am no longer who I was, and the universe responds instantly, not always with miracles. Sometimes with removal, sometimes with silence, sometimes with sudden opportunities that feel too aligned to be accidents. Because the quantum field doesn't understand pressure, it understands precision. When your identity shifts, your reality has no choice but to follow. And here is the truth most people avoid. Every reality you've ever lived, every struggle, every pattern, every cycle, came from one place. Your subconscious blueprint, not your goals, not your affirmations, not your hard work. Your blueprint, a silent, hidden script written long before you were aware of it. A script made of old memories, emotional imprints, inherited fears, survival mechanisms, and beliefs that were never yours to begin with. This blueprint has been quietly dictating your reactions, your choices, your relationships, your self-worth, and even the opportunities you allow yourself to receive. And now that blueprint is being dismantled, not gently, not politely, but with the same force the universe uses when it knows you're ready for the timeline you once prayed for. This phase is confusing because it doesn't look like spiritual awakening. It looks like exhaustion. It looks like random emotions resurfacing out of nowhere. It looks like overthinking, irritation, sudden clarity, sudden confusion, and moments where you question everything you've believed about yourself. But this is not breakdown, it's extraction. Your subconscious is pulling old code to the surface so it can be removed. You feel it as discomfort. You feel it as emotional waves. You feel it as sudden triggers. You feel it as a strange sense that something inside you is shifting, but you can't quite explain what. That is the blueprint dissolving. Because you can't enter a new timeline with an old subconscious identity. It would collapse the moment you tried to hold it. So the universe takes you into this phase of deep internal excavation, where every belief that kept you small becomes visible. Beliefs like, I'm not ready, I'm not enough, good things don't last for me, I always end up disappointed, I have to struggle to earn anything, I'm scared to be seen, I don't trust myself. You aren't thinking these for the first time. You're thinking them for the last time. The subconscious is releasing these beliefs the only way it knows how, by letting you feel them so you can finally reject them consciously. And this is the moment of power. This is where timelines diverge. Most people run away from these emotions. They suppress the discomfort. They distract themselves. They go back to old habits, old people, old environments, anything to avoid confronting the truth that their inner world is being rewritten. But you're not doing that anymore. You are watching your old programming unravel. You are noticing the patterns instead of falling into them. You are choosing awareness over autopilot. You are questioning every limitation that once felt like truth. You are observing your triggers instead of letting them define you. This is mastery, because the moment you stop identifying with an old belief, its power collapses. And the moment a belief collapses, the timeline built on top of it collapses too. You are not losing control. You are gaining consciousness. There is a moment in transformation where it feels like two versions of you are fighting for control. Not metaphorically, energetically. You can feel the tension inside your chest, the pull in two directions, the strange sense that you're being stretched between the self you've always been and the self you are becoming. This is the frequency war, a silent but powerful clash between your old vibrational identity and your new energetic destiny. Your old self is built on survival, on fear, familiarity, and patterns that once protected you. Its frequency is low, dense, predictable. It wants comfort, repetition, and certainty. It wants you to stay exactly where you've always been because that is where it knows how to exist. Your new self operates on alignment, on intuition, expansion, and truth. Its frequency is high, fast, and unfiltered. It wants growth, bold choices, and experiences your old self could never access. It wants you to move into the timeline you were meant for, and right now both frequencies are active inside your field. That's why you feel tired for no reason. That's why you have bursts of clarity followed by waves of doubt. That's why you feel pulled toward a bigger life but still gripped by the habits of your smaller self. That's why one moment you're full of power, and the next you can't understand why your energy collapsed. Two identities, two timelines, two frequencies, both trying to command your reality. The universe is not testing you. It is recalibrating you. Because before your external world can change, your internal frequency must stabilize. Not for a moment, not for a day, but consistently. Your old frequency is losing power. Your new frequency is gaining strength. But there is a transition phase where both coexist. And this is where most people panic. They think something is wrong. They think they're failing. They think they're slipping backward. But the truth is, this inner war is proof that you're evolving. Your old frequency fights hardest when it knows it's dying. That's why your triggers feel louder. That's why your old impulses return unexpectedly. That's why your fears try to convince you that you're not ready. These are withdrawal symptoms from a reality you no longer resonate with. You're not regressing. You're detoxing from the person you used to be. And here's the quantum secret almost no one understands. Whichever frequency you nourish becomes your fate. If you feed the old self through old habits, old emotions, old people, old environments, you collapse back into your old timeline. Not because you're weak, but because frequency decides reality. If you feed the new self through presence, truth, embodiment, and higher emotional states, you activate your new timeline. The war ends the moment you consistently choose alignment over familiarity. Not perfectly, not flawlessly, just consistently. Because the quantum field doesn't respond to perfection, it responds to patterns. There comes a point in your transformation where something extraordinary begins to happen. A shift so subtle you barely notice it at first, yet so powerful it alters the entire trajectory of your reality. It's the moment your future self steps in, not as imagination, not as wishful thinking, but as an active frequency, a living, intelligent field of consciousness pulling you forward. This version of you already exists in the quantum field. They already live the reality you're trying to manifest. They already embody the confidence, clarity, discipline, awareness, and emotional mastery you are building right now. And when your vibration rises high enough, your future self starts sending signals back through time. That's why you suddenly feel urges that make no logical sense. That's why you're drawn to places, ideas, people, and decisions you can't explain yet. That's why certain dreams feel more like memories than imagination. That's why your intuition has become louder than your fear. It's not random. It's not coincidence. It's guidance. Your future self is rearranging your present timeline so you can meet them. And this phase is strange because it feels like simultaneous remembering and awakening. You feel like you're being pushed, pulled, and redirected. sometimes gently and sometimes with force. You stop resonating with things you once tolerated. You stop chasing what you once thought you needed. You stop accepting energies that no longer align with where you're going. Because your future self is not negotiating, they're leading. This is why certain decisions suddenly feel inevitable. Why you know when something is wrong without any evidence. Why your body rejects environments that drain your frequency. Why you feel a silent internal no to low vibrational interactions. Your future timeline is speaking through your intuition. And here's the quantum truth most people ignore. Your intuition isn't predicting your future, it's remembering it. You're not guessing, you're aligning. You're not hoping, you're syncing. You're not manifesting from imagination, you're manifesting from recognition. Because in the quantum field, time is not linear. Your highest self is not ahead of you, it's above you. And when you rise in frequency, you merge with that higher perspective. That's why you feel moments of clarity without thinking. That's why you know what you need to release even when it hurts. That's why you sense opportunities long before they appear. Your future self is guiding you through energetic pull, not logical steps. And here's the part you must understand to unlock the next stage. Your future self will never ask you to stay where you are. They will always ask you to become who you're meant to be. They will guide you toward alignment even when it requires solitude. They will pull you away from comfort even when it feels like loss. They will dismantle illusions you once depended on. There is a stage in your evolution that almost everyone misinterprets. A stage where nothing seems to move. Messages slow down. Opportunities pause. People become distant. Synchronicities grow quiet. And you begin to wonder, did I lose my alignment? Did my vibration drop? Is the universe ignoring me? But this silence is not abandonment. It is assessment. The field is testing the stability of your frequency, because coherence isn't proven when everything is flowing. Coherence is proven when nothing external is feeding your momentum. This is the moment where the universe stops, giving you signals, and waits to see if you can hold your vibration without support. It's the energetic equivalent of removing the training wheels, not to punish you, but to reveal whether your alignment is a performance or an identity. During the silence, your old patterns attempt to resurface, not because you're regressing, but because the system is reorganizing. Everything you haven't fully healed rises to the surface to be witnessed, not repeated. And the question becomes, can you stay coherent when your external reality isn't validating you? Most people collapse here. They chase distraction. They spiral into doubt. They mistake stillness for stagnation and sabotage their frequency with impatience. But those who understand the mechanics of the field know the truth. Silence is calibration. Your nervous system is rewiring. Your emotional baseline is stabilizing. Your identity is dissolving its old shape. Your quantum signature is adjusting to a higher configuration. Nothing is wrong. Something is forming. This is also when the ego panics. It thrives on noise, movement, reassurance. When the field goes quiet, the ego interprets it as danger. It whispers, "You're slipping. You're failing. You're being forgotten." But your higher self knows the opposite is happening. The more silent your reality becomes, the more active the quantum field actually is. It's rearranging timelines behind the scenes, aligning variables you cannot yet perceive. In physics, this phase resembles decoherence before reformation, the moment the system destabilizes just enough to reorganize into a higher order. It looks like chaos. It feels like nothing, but it is the birthplace of symmetry. This is why just before major breakthroughs, life often slows to near stillness. Not because your manifestation is moving away, but because it's moving into alignment. And the field wants to know, does your vibration collapse without external proof? Or can you hold your frequency purely from internal truth? This is the mastery level of manifestation, where you stop reacting to probability and begin shaping it, where you become coherent without evidence, aligned without confirmation, certain without sight. Because when the field sees that you can hold your vibration in silence, it responds with acceleration. Doors reopen. Opportunities multiply. There comes a moment on this path when the universe stops reflecting your desires and begins reflecting your wounds, not to punish you, not to discourage you, but to expose the frequencies you didn't know you were still transmitting, because you can only shift the reality you are conscious of. What stays hidden continues to shape your field. This is where the quantum journey becomes intensely personal. You may notice it suddenly. A conversation triggers you more than it should. An old insecurity resurfaces after years of silence. A fear you thought you'd outgrown reappears with sharper clarity. Your first instinct might be to resist. Why is this happening again? Didn't I heal this? Why is the field reflecting this part of me now? But the truth is simpler and far more powerful. The field mirrors what is ready to be released. Not before. Not after. Precisely when your system has the strength to transform it. This revelation is critical because many people confuse healing with deletion. They assume that once they fix something, it disappears forever. But nothing in the quantum field truly vanishes. It integrates. It harmonizes. It evolves. When the field brings an old program back into your awareness, it is not resurrecting your past. It is giving you a chance to observe that pattern from a higher state of consciousness, to look at it without collapsing into it, to witness it instead of identifying with it. This is the essence of what quantum physicists call non-collapse observation. When a particle is watched without interference, its behavior changes without force. Consciousness reorganizes potential simply through presence. Your psyche works the same way. When you observe your fear without judgment, your shame without self-attack, your insecurity without defense, the vibration begins to unwind. The neural networks tied to that pattern weaken. The emotional charge dissolves. The program loses coherence, not because you force change, but because you witness truth. And here lies the deeper mystery. Every trigger is a doorway into a higher timeline. Most people run from the door. They avoid discomfort. They try to manifest over their wounds instead of through them. But the field doesn't operate on avoidance. It operates on resonance. Anything you reject within yourself continues broadcasting beneath your awareness. Anything you accept begins to harmonize. This is why your life sometimes feels like it is, showing you versions of yourself you don't want to see. It is not showing them to trap you. It is showing them so you can stop being ruled by them. When the field reflects your hidden programs, it is inviting you into a higher frequency of self-recognition, a level of honesty that doesn't collapse your vibration but refines it. Because healing doesn't raise your frequency, integration does. When you fully acknowledge the parts of yourself you used to suppress, your field becomes congruent. There comes a moment in every transformation where the universe stops whispering and starts testing, not to punish you but to measure the stability of your new frequency. And this is that moment for you, the moment where old patterns try to resurrect themselves, not because they're powerful, but because they're familiar. They approach you like ghosts requesting one final conversation, hoping you'll forget who you've become and slip back into who you used to be. But something is different this time. You feel it. The old version of you no longer fits inside the present moment. When you try to step into your former identity, even for a second, it feels tight, suffocating. Like walking into a room where the air has been drained out. The universe does this intentionally. It's forcing you to choose consciously, deliberately, what reality you are aligning with. Because the quantum field responds not to what you want, but to what you embody. And lately, you've been embodying something new without even realizing it. Notice how you've been seeing signs more often? Repeated numbers, synchronicities, strange coincidences that feel too precise to ignore. These are not random. They are feedback loops, proof that your energy is shifting faster than your mind can make sense of. You're no longer manifesting from desire. You're manifesting from identity. You're not asking for the new reality. You're becoming the version of you who already lives there. And the universe is rearranging itself around that truth. But here's the mystical part. When a new reality is about to lock in, the old one grows louder. People from your past suddenly appear. Thoughts you thought you healed suddenly resurface. Doubts you buried suddenly whisper again. This doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're seconds away from collapsing the old timeline completely. Think of it like the final echo of a bell. The sound is the loudest right before it fades forever. Right now, you are holding two timelines in your hands. One leads back to who you used to be, predictable, limited, unconscious. The other pulls you toward the unknown, expansive, unfamiliar, extraordinary. And the only deciding factor is your next emotional reaction. Not your next action, not your next plan. Your next emotion. Because emotion is frequency and frequency is destiny. And the truth is, you've already outgrown the life you're still halfway holding on to. The universe isn't asking you to take a leap of faith. It's asking you to stop delaying the leap. Your soul already took. You're not stepping into a new reality. You're catching up to the one that has been waiting for you. There's a powerful secret most people never learn. Every breakthrough has a silent threshold, a moment where nothing seems to be happening on the surface, yet everything is shifting underneath. And you are standing in that exact threshold right now. It feels like stillness, like waiting, like your life is paused between two worlds. But this isn't stagnation. This is alignment preparing to snap into place. Your mind is confused because your energy has already moved ahead. Your body is still catching up. Your circumstances are still recalibrating. But your frequency has already crossed the border. You're no longer resonating with the timeline you've been living in for years. That's why old habits feel foreign. That's why old environments feel heavy. That's why old desires feel meaningless. They no longer match the signal you're broadcasting into the quantum field. And when your frequency outgrows your life, the universe begins its quiet rearrangement. You might feel disconnected from people you once felt close to. You might feel unmotivated by goals you once obsessed over. You might feel a strange emptiness, a hollow space where your old identity used to live. But this emptiness isn't a void, it's a doorway. A clearing. A sacred gap where the next version of you is trying to take form. This is why nothing external feels stable right now. You keep trying to find certainty in the physical world, forgetting that the physical is always the last to shift. Reality updates inward first, outward last. Your energy moves, your thoughts follow, your identity evolves. And only then does the world around you rearrange in response. Right now, the universe is synchronizing your internal upgrade with your external timeline. It's like two frequencies slowly merging until they become one harmonious signal. But before they click into alignment, you feel the distortion, the emotional static, the uncertainty, the urge to retreat. Do not retreat. This discomfort is the final sign that the old timeline can no longer hold you. If you go back now, it will crumble beneath you. If you stay where you are, the universe will crystallize the new timeline around your updated identity. You're not losing yourself. You're shedding yourself. You're not falling behind. You're shifting dimensions. You're not stuck. You're stabilizing. And the universe is watching, waiting to see one thing. Will you choose the frequency of the future or the memories of the past? Because the moment you choose the future, not by thought, but by feeling, most reality will snap into alignment faster than you can process. Doors you didn't know existed will open. People aligned with your next chapter will appear. Opportunities will surface exactly when you need them. This is the moment where timelines braid, where old identities dissolve, where destiny becomes malleable. And now you reach the part no one prepares you for. The moment where the universe stops pushing, stops pulling, stops hinting, and simply waits. This is the still point, the quantum pause, the silent inhale before your new reality exhales into existence. Everything you felt leading up to this, the detachment, the discomfort, the shedding, the confusion, the strange sense of inevitability, it's all been building toward this singular choice. Because the quantum field doesn't respond to your hopes. It doesn't respond to your fears. It responds to your identity. And right now your identity is dissolving and reforming at the same time. You're standing in a place where the past no longer recognizes you and the future hasn't fully materialized yet. It feels like floating. It feels like uncertainty. But in truth, it's the most powerful moment in the entire manifestation cycle. The moment where your inner world becomes more real than the physical world around you. This is where reality bends. Not when you visualize. Not when you affirm. Not when you script. Reality bends when you decide who you are now, not who you're trying to become. And that's the test, not a punishment. Not a spiritual exam, a calibration. The universe is checking. Are you still broadcasting the frequency of your old story? Or have you finally tuned yourself to the timeline you desire? If even a fragment of you chooses the old identity, the doubts, the attachments, the memories, then the new timeline stays locked. Not because you're unworthy, but because the universe can't give you a reality that contradicts your self-concept. But when you choose the new identity, not through words, but through embodiment, everything changes instantly. Your energy becomes a command. Your field becomes a blueprint. Reality has no choice but to rearrange around your decision. This is why the final step of the shift feels strangely quiet. There is no fanfare, no cosmic announcement, no dramatic sign. Just an inner click, a subtle knowing, a calm certainty. The moment you stop chasing and start being, and that's when the quantum field collapses into alignment. Your new timeline locks in. Synchronicities accelerate. People and opportunities magnetize. Paths open that were previously invisible. It doesn't feel like magic, and it feels like inevitability. Like everything was waiting for you to become the version of yourself who could hold the life you've been calling in. This is your rebirth, not a metaphor, a frequency shift. The old you has completed its role. The new you has already been born in the energetic realm. Now it's time to step forward and let reality catch up. No more hesitation. No more looping. No more half-chosen timelines. This is the moment you fully embody the identity that mirrors the reality you desire. Because when you choose the future as if it's already yours, the universe doesn't wait. It responds.